Hello everybody, welcome to Circuit Zolder and welcome to round number 6 of the 2025 Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. We're here at this fantastic Belgian track that always does a lot to shake up the championship order. It's tight and narrow and twisty here with chicanes, hairpins and heavy braking zones that will for sure catch out all of our drivers at some point. There's very, very interesting championship fights going into this one. Norbert Kish is now at least one race meeting clear of Jochen Hahn in second position with a 67-point lead. In a race weekend, you can get a maximum of 60 points, so Norby is one race meeting clear already, and he's hoping to build on that and hope to take the championship at Le Mans in just a week's time. In the Chrome category, though, it is so close. We have Bradley Smith leading the way. We'll be talking to him as the weekend goes on. He's got a small lead over the likes of Mark Taylor, John Newell and Clemens Hecker, who all have just 1 point between them coming here from Most. Clemens Hecker had the best weekend of his career at Most, and he is still confident to do the same here at Zolder. Bradley Smith is just hoping to basically rebuild on what he had at the start of the season. And of course, Mark Taylor, he had a lot of reliability issues at Most that put them on the back foot. They all know that with his pace, he should be at the top of that championship. John Newell, he had a truck that wasn't behaving itself at the start of the season, but now they've gotten into a rhythm with it. There's so many stories and angles to look at as this weekend gets underway, but it'll be very, very exciting all the same. I'm Chaz Draycott. I'll be doing the presenting and the commentating here this weekend. It's going to be a very busy one for me and my wonderful cameraman, but we look forward to it and we hope you enjoy the action. Wow, I didn't realise that I was shouting so much when I'd recorded that. Well, hello everybody, Chaz Draycott now up in the commentary box for the weekend. And we look here at some pictures from a great race weekend back at Most just 2 weeks ago. What a wonderful meeting that was, with so much going on throughout. We had, of course, Norbert Kish on pole position for race 1, taking a victory there in the first encounter of the weekend. And then with Jochen Hahn a bit further down the order, he had to fight his way up to try and gain additional positions. It was Sasha Lenz and Antonio Albacete that took podiums in the first race of the weekend. But we had so much battling in the Chrome class. That really has been the highlight of the last couple of weeks here at the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And we saw, of course, a great defense from Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. He was fighting with Norbert Kish and, of course, Jochen Hahn in the later stages of the final race of the weekend. And he took his second race win. Sorry, it was the second race of the weekend. He took his second race win of the year back then. There was moments for Martin Matzik, who will hopefully be joining us in later stages of the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. He made his debut with us back at Most. And as you can see, the crowds on the Sunday were massive. We had spins and red flags and all sorts in the opening sectors, and lots of contact for Antonio Albacete. Antonio will be hoping for a much cleaner weekend this time round as he completes a massive milestone here today. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Norbert Kish was once again on utter form at the top of the standings. He has won every race 1 and 3 so far this season, and as things stand coming here to Zolder, he has 13 race victories. Only one other Titan driver has more than one win this season, and that is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. We look here at the pictures from the final race of the weekend, and Steffi Halm led the way from pole position, with Clemens Hecker defending from all of the Titan drivers behind. Antonio Albacete was getting his elbows out and fighting with René Reinert, while Jochen Hahn was making his way through the progress of the field as well. Antonio had to try his best to hold on from his ex-teammate Norbert Kish, and we saw some great moves and a big championship shuffle up. Let's go back to live pictures though for this weekend as we head back to Zolder in Belgium, this fantastic racetrack. And we've got some very mixed conditions once again this morning, as we so often have here at this track. And I've had a lot of people tell me all weekend since I arrived, what is the obsession with the English and why do they constantly talk about the weather? Like, why do they always continuously go on and on about the weather? But we just do. That's how it all goes. We have, of course, a lot of cloud, as you can see over there in the background, but we've got a lot to think about this weekend in terms of how quickly the weather can change. I mentioned it back at Most, as we were obviously there just 2 weeks ago. But it's one of those things in these circuits that we go to all over Europe. We have these high pressure environments. The Nürburgring is obviously known for having such it's got its own climate, hasn't it, that place? We know just how quickly the weather can change there. And it's famous for it in the Nürburgring 24 hours that goes on every year. We see here Clemens Hecker on our screen, just to highlight exactly what his name is, in the number 25 machine. I'm delighted to say, actually, that after the theme of hearing about his lucky tiger pants, that I am now the proud owner of a pair of these tiger pants. A wonderful gift from Clemens Hecker and his team. Let's have a look at the track layout then of this fantastic racetrack. You'll hear me using many superlatives for this place this weekend. I love it here at Zolder. Never visited here before. I'm very grateful to be flown out for this one for this weekend. But look at the shape of this place. It is tight, twisty, narrow. The chicanes, hairpins, and everything that you could possibly throw at a driver as a challenge. We have the Lucien Bianchi box, which is one of the most difficult corners on the circuit, actually. Turn 4, as you go all the way around near where the wind farms are onto the back straight, which really presses the paddock into the pit lane, really. Down towards the Kleiner chicane, that's going to be one of the most important parts of the circuit. Over the Butt section, which is a huge crest down towards Terlemenbocht, known as, of course, as the Villeneuve chicane. And then Boulderberg Harschbeldbocht, which is unbelievably gotten somehow longer in the last few years. It used to just be Boulderberg-Bocht, that final corner, but now it's Boulderberg Harschbeldbocht. And that hairpin has got a very heavy braking zone where we'll see people making moves down the inside all weekend long. So we'll have to see what the drivers can do down there to catch everybody out that's watching, including yours truly. It's not the warmest day today, but in typical fashion, I've been walking around in a t-shirt because I'm British and this is still like summer to us. But we unfortunately have some news that will cool the feelings of fans of Stefan Fass. I was having a quick chat with him yesterday about this new truck and their new engine and so on. And unfortunately, they've had another setback with that engine this morning. They've had more fuel issues with it, so he's having to miss this qualifying session and we'll start from the back of the grid. Luke Garrett there on our screens. I just went and saw Luke, actually. He said that he was a lot happier with the truck at the moment. He said it basically to me in layman's terms, he's learning to drive it because they had so many reliability issues of their own last year that he didn't get a full chance to really learn the truck and keep it keep it in one setup because they had so many things failing. They couldn't keep it the same throughout the season, so he couldn't learn how it behaved. We had the HVO 100 shark fin on the truck there as well, the wonderful fifth wheel that we have on these machines with our partnership with Total Energies, the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, of course. Many partners and brands alongside us, supporting us along the way, including obviously Goodyear, the title sponsor of the series, Iveco, Total Energies, Alcoa, Krona, Yoast, and Eurovag, who are the newest one to join the fantastic list that we have. And it's wonderful to be supported by so many brands. Now, the drivers and the trucks will be lining up at the end of the pit lane in championship order for this first part of qualifying, which will inevitably mean Norbert Kish at the very front. He'll be followed by Jochen Hahn, Steffi Halm, and then this man here, René Reinert. I just saw René for the first time this weekend, actually, between sessions. Just went and said a quick hello. He said he had a small spin in warm-up, but he's been trying to find the limit, see what's possible, as he said, because this circuit really does demand a lot from people. So he said that it's almost like being in a tunnel because you're constantly surrounded by close concrete walls and barriers. Louis Requenco's truck there. I think that has a new front bumper on it with this weekend. My colleague Alice and I were walking through the paddock on Thursday when we arrived, and it didn't have any of the stickers or the little headlight stickers or anything on the front end of it. It didn't have any of the vinyl wrap on it or anything at all. So maybe a change to the bodywork there. It's always a beautifully clean truck, is Louis Requenco's machine. It looks fantastic. Love this very simple design, shows off the great contours of that Iveco. A big thumbs up and away from Steffi Halm. She's going to be hoping to retain that third place in the championship this weekend. René Reinert and Sascha Lenz are 4th and 5th on joint points, 125 each. So those guys, I'm sure, will be doing the maths every single lap that they do. The green light at the end of the pit lane has been illuminated and the drivers make their way out now. Like I say, usually in championship order. So we've got René Reinert and Sasha Lenz actually the other way around. Sasha ahead of René. I think that's down to count back, but René's got a race win under his belt this season. So I would have had it that Sasha was ahead in the Sasha was behind in the championship. Interesting. Antonio Albacete was 6th, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez 7th. There's a big split actually in the championship though. Once we go down from 7th place to 8th place, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez has 98 points, but Mark Taylor in 8th place has 36. Then it's 35 for Clemens Hecker, 32 for Bradley Smith, which shows you again just how interesting the points system is in this series from one class to the next, because in the overall classification, Clemens Hecker is 3 points clear of Bradley Smith. But in, of course, the Chrome Championship, Bradley is now 13 points clear of Clemens Hecker. So when they're scored on their own class positions, that's what matters to these drivers in the Chrome classifications. You might have to bear with me while I close my window here in the office where I am, here at Zolder in the media centre, because we have the window open. The wonderful Andreas Ahn and I are sharing an office this weekend, and it is right next to the back straight, actually. It's very, very loud as they come past, so I just had to go and close that. Luckily, it's within range of my setup here. But yeah, we are back once again at Zolder for this next round of the championship, round number 6 of 8 this season. It's been lovely to get the championship back onto an 8-round calendar, of course. We lost the Hungaroring over the last few years and unfortunately haven't been back for quite a while now due to all the construction and the changes that are happening at that circuit. I think that's just an overall modernisation of the circuit and a revamp, but mainly it was geared towards Formula One and a couple of Hungarian racing events that the circuit hosts every year. But it's great to be back here once again, and interesting to see Zolder in the later stage of the season again. Last year it was quite early on in the championship, I believe. It was before the Nürburgring round, which usually marks the halfway point of the season. But this time round, Zolder moving back to September. And it really comes at a pivotal time of the championship where people are trying to weigh up the maths and see what they can do about fighting against one another into the later moments. Because it's when you get into these final 2 meetings, we head to Le Mans in a week's time, or Le Mans, if you say it correctly, and then Jarama at the end of the season, which is in just 3 weeks. I can't believe that, you know, even at this point at Zolder, it feels like there's still quite a lot of the season left to go, but unfortunately not. It's very quickly coming to a close. Now, Bradley Smith, who we have on our screen there, if you just quickly look at the front bumper, you'll see that one of the cutouts on the right-hand side is different to the shape on the left-hand side. It was something that I noticed in the later moments of the race meeting at Most, and apparently it's just to do with a bit more brake cooling on the left-hand side. Jonathan Andre back with us this weekend as well. It's been great to see him and the team back on track. We also have Stefan Kirsch rejoining us in the number 33 machine. It's lovely to see him and his gang. But unfortunately, no Christian Ruppert this weekend. Christian has an illness, I'm afraid, and it's really gotten to him over the last couple of days. He's hoping to be back with us for Le Mans, but unfortunately not been cleared fit to race by his doctor for Zolder this weekend. So we send our very best to Christian Ruppert and his team and hope they're all doing well, and obviously look forward to having them back with us once again. Bradley Smith there ahead of Clemens Hecker, with Jonathan Andre just behind in the lovely Lion Truck Racing machine. Great looking race truck that is. And you know, Jonathan was with us at the start of the season at Misano. We also had him with us, I believe, no, he wasn't at the Nürburgring. Well, that was the first time we had Jonathan with us actually was back at Misano. And then he's not been with us for the rest of the season, unfortunately. But he had 3 podium finishes that weekend and a class win, so he's definitely got a lot to think about this time. Definitely got a lot to aim for as well. I'm sure that he's going to be right near the sharp end of the Chrome class, and we look forward to seeing that. First times are about to come in from Norbert Kisch. 203.6 for Norby this first time of the day. And we'll keep our eye on if anybody manages to improve on that, and obviously continually bring that down. But we often see that in the later sessions that the times get quicker and quicker. Jochen Hahn second, Sascha Lenz third, Steffi Helm fourth place at the moment, Antonio Albacete in fifth. He's got an important anniversary coming up today, which we're going to speak about in a little bit. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez in sixth place, Clement Hecker seventh, Rene Reiner eighth, Mark Taylor ninth, and Bradley Smith in 10th place. Now, Bradley is unfortunately ill at the moment as well, actually. I was talking to his dad before. I just saw him go through the pit lane and the paddock, and he was saying that, yeah, Bradley's he's not very well right now, unfortunately. So hopefully he's feeling better as the weekend goes on. We do hope to have an interview with him as well, but obviously if he's not feeling up to it, then we don't want to force him to sort of subscribe him to media duties. We have more times that have now come in. Jonathan Andre is down in 13th place. Louis Requenco goes 14th, but not a representative lap time by him. He can definitely go faster than 32 seconds off the pace. We know that much. Louis has been very quick at the top end of the Chrome Championship so far this season. So he's definitely one to watch as we look there at Clemens Hecker. Also one to watch as well off the back of his best weekend back at Most just 2 weeks ago. Seems like just 5 minutes though, doesn't it, since we were at Most. John Newell has just gone past my window down towards the Kleiner chicane there. John is up in 7th place at the moment, the fastest driver in Chrome as well, which he'll be really pleased for. Luke Garrett next up, then Clemens Hecker. It's interesting, Bradley Smith and Mark Taylor, the top two in the Chrome Championship, are actually the drivers that are sort of 4th and 5th in their class as things stand. So, yeah, they'll be hoping for better fortunes than that in Quali 2 and 3. But from this first part of the session, it is the top 12 drivers that go through. Louis Requenco there on another lap. The circuit itself very greasy at the moment, actually. We had quite a lot of rain in the evening and overnight. Not really any rain this morning. It's been a beautiful, bright morning here, just outside of Brussels. But it's not been warm, so the circuit hasn't really dried up very much. There's not been a lot of on-track action either, to be fair. We had our warm-up session, and then the Dutch Truck Racing Championship that is sharing the circuit with us this weekend, they had their first warm-up session just after us, but that's all there's been in terms of on-track action. And like I say, it's not been a particularly warm day so far, so hardly any vehicles on the track to really clear any water away. Jonathan Andre now just crossing the line, trying to complete another lap, but I think he's slowed it down to wind up for another fast lap now. He's 5.4 seconds off at present. And just moving ahead of him there actually goes Louis Requenco from the back of the grid. There's Luke Garrett across the line. 2.3 seconds off at the moment. Don't think that was an improvement from him. No, that was just a slow lap as well between. So what they tend to do is they'll set a fast time and then slow it down for a lap, get everything back down to a cooler temperature, and then they will crack on from there and go for a fast time. We see here Stefan Kirsch next up on our screens. Mark Taylor there and Bradley Smith wanting to improve on what they've managed to set so far. You can see again the difference in the two cutouts on that front bumper. I believe I think one of the guys said it's just a little bit more cooling. There's more cooling needed on the left-hand side based on the components of underneath the truck. They just wanted to get that little bit more air to the left-hand side when they were struggling with brake cooling and so on. It's not the prettiest front bumper in the world with a huge hole gouged out of it, but it's function over form, I think, with the Don't Touch Racing team in this regard. Bradley making his way through the very tricky right-hander there. The front end didn't want to bite for a moment there, did it? And then all of a sudden the rear end wanted to come around and overtake it. We've still got a few trucks out there on track, everybody down from 8th position, actually. So Luke Garrett, Clemens Hecker, Rene Reiner still out there as well, Mark Taylor, Louis Requenco, Bradley Smith, and Jonathan Andre. Stefan Kirsch has had a lap time deleted, I think, because he's been out, but he's not completed a time. Stefan Faust is the only one who has been confirmed as not competing in the session, but Stefan Kirsch is also not out there on track by the look of it right now, which is a shame. Big improvement there by Jonathan Andre. He moves up to 10th. Mark Taylor goes up to 8th place, just behind John Newell. And Bradley Smith, that is more like it's sunshine. That's what he wanted. 6th position outright for Bradley Smith. A lovely time there, moving him up the order. Luke Garrett now goes 2nd fastest in Chrome as well. 2.1 seconds off the fastest time overall, but a great improvement there by Luke. 2:05.7. Lovely stuff there from the British drivers, taking the top 4 positions in Chrome. They've not had it their own way over the last few race meetings, that's safe to say. Clemens Hecker being a pretty dominant force at the top of the Chrome class at Most. But a lovely mix once again. Interesting to see that René Reinert, who I think is just on our screens there, yeah, he's just coming down into the final couple of corners now. René Reinert, 13th place for him at the present moment. Maybe just struggling to get back with the confidence. He's not been raced. Well, he's not raced here for a long time, actually, with us. I think the last time that we had him in the field would have been 2021. And, interesting. So, a penalty for this number 77 machine as well to add on to that. A drop of 3 grid positions for René Reinert. Failed to stop for the red light in free practice too. That was a big shame. It's these procedural things over the weekend that drivers, I'm not going to say they sort of overstep the mark with them, but obviously it's small moments like that that can change a weekend. And unfortunately right now for René it has. Stefan Kirsch back on our screen, kisses that curve on the left hand side and just flicks the truck sideways as he gets back on the power. And he heads down into the Boulderberg Haarspeld Bocht, which I will attempt to get right as the weekend goes on. But a nice calm opening part to the session here. We've had a great mix though of all the times. When you compare the championship order to how the drivers have ended up in this session so far, there's a good bit of mixing going on, which is what we always like to see. Stefan Kirsch is bottom of the pile at the moment, unfortunately, but regardless, from our perspective, it's great to have him back on the grid and back in the field. Across the line then, Mark Taylor did not improve on that last lap. He did a 2:29, but I think he's going to use this as his final lap to have a go now. Bradley Smith comes back into the pits after that one. Kirsch has actually gotten faster than Rikwenko now. Louis is slowest at the moment in 15th place. Of those running anyway, we've got 16 trucks here with us this weekend. Stefan Fass obviously not out there in this session. What can René Reinert do? He needs to just improve by 4 tenths to get through into Q2, knocking Jonathan Andre out of the session. It's going around the final corner now. Boots it across the line. I can tell you from on that pit wall, it's a very interesting place to stand. I nearly lost my eyebrows to the trucks this morning. And how about that? René Reinert from down in 13th place says, watch this. Up into 2nd place goes René. There's one to build up the confidence. Brilliant stuff from René Reinert. He and Norbert Kirsch, his teammate, 1st and 2nd as things stand in this first qualifying session. Great performance that by René. He'll be really, really pleased with that one. Jonathan Andre and Stefan Kirsch still out there on track. Stefan kicking a lot of steam up from the brakes on the front of that truck. They must be running a lot of water on that thing. Seems that he's always got more steam coming out of the front end than everybody else. Just 35 seconds left in this session then. Obviously the drivers, if they cross the line before it ticks down to 0, they can complete the lap that they're on. So it's not necessarily over just yet. But as you can see, it's much quieter out there on track now with just a few trucks out there. Clemens Hecker went up into 7th place overall. He'll be really pleased. Getting through into Q2, and a big improvement by Luke Garrett there. He goes up into 4th place. I wonder if, and with no disrespect to Luke, obviously, I wonder if the track is drying and getting slightly faster, because some of the times coming in now are really throwing drivers up the order. Mark Taylor has improved quite a lot as well. Jonathan Andre goes back into the top 12, and all of a sudden, John Newell, who was fastest in the Chrome class earlier on, finds himself down in 14th place, and the checkered flag comes out. Stefan Kirsch gets himself through, and look at that, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez not through into Q2. The Titan driver, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, race winner last time out at Most, does not make it through into Q2. Wow. I think the circuit was gradually drying out in the later stages there, and a number of them managed to set faster times by staying out on the circuit. But wow, that's a big shake-up for the order, that. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez down in 14th position. Another improvement coming through in the later moments there for Louis Requenco. He goes up into 7th ahead of Steffi Helm. Wow. Well, Jose Eduardo, I think that's his grandfather there, Eduardo Rodriguez. They will be very, very disappointed with that. The driver that is the reigning Chrome champion as well. I think his father, Jose, is going over there as well now to have a chat. Clearly dejected in his body language, a shake of the head. Jose Eduardo not moving in the cab. He's not even turned his head. I think he's just devastated that they've missed this opportunity. He knows he's got the pace to make it through the order from some of these Chrome drivers, though he is a fantastic talent. So there's no question that he'll be able to make his way through the order. But yeah, that is a huge shame. There's my cameraman, Marco. Hello, son. Marco and I will be having a good wander around the grid for races 1, 2, 3, and 4 this weekend. I look forward to that. And Louis Requenco's team there, I think, just sort of saying, what do you want me to do? I think they both wanted to occupy the same parking space in the pit lane or something. Rene makes his way in, just behind reigning champion Norbert Kisch, hoping to go on and take a record-setting 7th title this year in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. This wonderful shot is thanks to Marco. Norby, you can see, just focused as we focus on the 100% renewable HVO shark fin on the back of Antonio Albacetti's truck. Like I've said, I've alluded to it a few times because I want to leave it until our little interview with Antonio and mention later on his anniversary that he has here today, but he's surpassing a certain number of races here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and it's a number that beggars belief. It really is. I got told about it just before the weekend. Always keeping up with the numbers and things, but yeah, didn't quite catch that he was about to complete a massive milestone. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez has been told to basically go away by the look of it. I think he went to move forward in the pit lane to get near the end, to probably go back into the paddock, but I think he's been told to wait there and now let everybody else go past to line up for this second part of qualifying, because they need to line them up in order. So that's why Rene Reinert is there in second position. Jochen Hahn just lining up behind him. Then it should be Luke Garrett, who finished that session in 4th. Brilliant stuff from Luke. Sasha Lenz 5th, Mark Taylor 6th, Louis Requenco, Steffi Helm. Antonio Albacetti was only 9th, with Clemens Hecker 10th, Jonathan Andre 11th, Bradley Smith in 12th. Stefan Kirsch, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and John Newell out of the session, with Stefan Faas, unfortunately, not taking part. I believe it will be any moment now that we'll get the second part underway at 10:30 local time. 9:30, of course, in the UK. To those of you watching at home. Door closed now on Rene Reinert's machine. It doesn't look like they're due to go any moment now, actually. Maybe I'm incorrect in my assumption. I think what they'll do is now, because they can't form a big queue at the end of the pit lane with the limited space they have here at Zolder, I think they'll just send them from wherever they stand now. They'll just send them one by one down the pit lane in order. It is a tradition they stick to pretty well here in this series. And we're told that Q2 will now start at 10:31 local time. So looking at the clock, we've only got about 30 seconds or so before we move on to the next part of the session. You see the fans all around the circuit. They litter the tree line quite a lot here. The more you study the wooded areas around the track, you can just see more and more fans on standby and in their own positions. It's great to see. It feels like you're in a very secluded area here at Zolder. It's surrounded by trees and wonderful forests, and there's a great big wind farm off the exit of Turn 3. Really feels like you are out in the middle of the forest, but you are very close to a lot of civilization, right near the city of Hasselt, which is a gorgeous place. It's got a very Scandinavian vibe to it, I must say, but some wonderful architecture and some great buildings around. I thoroughly enjoyed my first visit to Zolder so far, and implore you to try and make it here for whatever race meeting it may be, preferably a round of the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship if you can. But I would implore you to try this circuit once at least to see just how much of a hidden gem it really is. Trucks back out on track now then, so the top 12 from that previous session will make their way onto the circuit. Norbert Kish, Rene Reiner, Jochen Hahn, Luke Garrett, Sasha Lenz, Antonio Albacete, Mark Taylor, Steffi Hahn, Louis Requenca, Clemens Hecker, Bradley Smith and Jonathan Andre. Just a 10-minute session this one though, as on the previous session it was 15 minutes, and of course Q3 is going to be just 5 minutes. So when we get the top 6 drivers from this session organised and sorted, they will go through and have just a quick 5-minute blast. Antonio Albacete there preparing for hopefully another bit of progress into Q3. Antonio with T-Spot Bernau currently not having the season they would have wanted. They had a bit of a struggle to start the championship. A couple of DNFs at Misano really put them on the back foot. A tough time then at Lausitz Ring as well, and even Slovakia Ring. They only had 1 podium after 3 race meetings, which is not like them at all. He took a race victory at the Nürburgring in a 3rd place, then got a 2nd place last time out at Most, but only, 4 top 5s from 2 race meetings, which is not really on Antonio's usual bingo card. So they'll be hoping for a bit more. I saw Tim this morning, Tim Frost, and as always, he's very enthusiastic, very positive about the great performance that him and the team always put in. They were the first here as well, actually. I think they arrived on Tuesday night and then were not allowed to set up properly until Wednesday morning. But yeah, not a huge trip down from where all the teams were, so not a massive drive across. It does end up being one of the rounds that's easiest to get to for almost everybody in the paddock, actually. Even the drivers and teams coming over from the UK, a lot of them tend to just drive down here to Brussels. It's not a definite flight job. Whereas, unfortunately for me, in the north of the UK, I've not really got much of an option but to fly. Apologies, a slight technical at my end just there. We are having to rely on the Wi-Fi connection here in the media centre for this weekend, and it's proven technical to say the least. Slight technical anyway. Antonio really attacking the Kleiner chicane there. He heads up over the brow of the hill once more, down towards the Villeneuve chicane. We're going to see a lot of overtakes into there this weekend, and we're going to see those penalty markers going flying. It's a huge amount of curb for them to take. They're quite lenient with the track limits through there this weekend because they're aware of the size of our trucks. Okay, I believe we're back. Sorry about the slight technical error, everybody. Unfortunately, of the plague of having the race meeting here at Zolder, sometimes the connection is quite an issue, unfortunately. But we plow on as best we can as a plucky broadcast crew. God, I can't even get my words out now. Getting all flustered. Mark Taylor on our screens right now. I can tell you that as things stand, it's Norbert Kish fastest, Jochen Hahn second, Antonio Albacete is third, with Steffi Halm in fourth ahead of Sasha Lenz and Clemens Hecker currently running in sixth position. He's fastest in Chrome and sixth overall as well, which is important because that will put him through into Q3. Cuenco, Jonathan Andre, Rene Reinert and Bradley Smith is yet to set a time in 12th position. There is Rene Reinert, currently running in 11th place, but he's 11 seconds off the fastest time. A big slide through the chicane as well. Just shows you how quickly these trucks can get caught from one way to the other. But Rene has done a 2 minutes 10.8 at the moment. Norbert Kish nearly a second. Let's see whether Rene can get this working across the line then. You can see one hand quite high up on the wheel. I was just saying he's gone fourth fastest. That puts him through now into Q3. Knocks Clemens Hecker down into seventh. Hecker down into seventh. Mark Taylor is currently eighth. We have him on screen right now. He's running second in the Chrome class, though. Luke Garrett is in third place. Louis Requenco fourth ahead of Jonathan Andre. Still no time from Bradley Smith, unfortunately. We'll see whether Bradley can get a time in towards the end of this session. The checkered flag has just come out, though, so if Bradley is going to set a time, it needs to be this one. But he hasn't come back out on track by the look of it. I think his latest sector that was picked up was that he was in the pit lane. I'm going to keep my eye out on the window where I can see down the back straight. Antonio Albacete seemed to be on a fast time. He was pushing at full chat down the back straight. Rene Reinert has definitely backed out of his time. Louis Requenco has crossed the line there and moves up to ninth ahead of Mark Taylor. And Clemens Hecker goes third. Clemens Hecker has just set a 2 minutes .510. That's put him into third place. Fastest in Chrome still, but he's actually knocked Steffi Halm now out of the top 6 positions. So Steffi will not make it through to Q3, and she's on a slow in lap as well. She's just come past my window now. There she is. Not on a fully fledged lap time. Fantastic stuff for Clemens Hecker. Well, he's continuing on this great performance that we saw from him back at Autodrom Most in Czechia. And he will be delighted with that. Sasha Lenz just coming past my window as well. He's finished that session in fourth place by the look of it. Clemens Hecker, though, he'll be over the moon with that. Really, really pleased, I'm sure. And as Andreas, my wonderful producer, has reminded me, it's all about the tiger pants. He must have his lucky tiger pants on today, must Clemens Hecker. Great lap indeed. 2 minutes .248 actually came in from Antonio Albacete at the end. I said he was on a fast time. He's knocked Clemens down to fourth place. But the drivers going through then into Q3 will be Norbert Kish, Jochen Hahn, Antonio Albacete, Clemens Hecker, Sasha Lenz and Rene Reinert. The drivers not going through into Q3 and locked into their positions will be Steffi Halm, Luke Garrett, Louis Requenco. Even if Rene Reinert finishes now, though, Q3 in sixth place, those three drivers, let's not forget, Halm, Garrett and Requenco, will move ahead of him because Rene will have a 3-place penalty for not stopping for a red light in free practice 2. Mark Taylor will start in 10th place ahead of Jonathan Andre. and Bradley Smith did not set a time in that last one. But Rene Reiner, I'm sure, will be a little bit relieved to have gotten through that one. Now as all the trucks make their way in. Everybody will be assessing how they've done. Bradley, unfortunately, maybe not setting a time in that one due to his illness. Mark Taylor and squad will be ready to go for this afternoon. They had obviously a lot to change before this weekend. They had a big overhaul of the truck underneath. Mainly the gearbox needed sorting out as well. Obviously they had to reseat the rear axle to ensure it was all aligned properly and good to go. They've said that they're confident in how the truck is. There we see the bright neon yellow accents of the Lion Truck Racing team of Jonathan Andre. Lovely bit of exposure there for our partner Total Energies. Massive logo of theirs on the door. That's a funky bit of kit, isn't it? One thing we have noticed is that the fans have lots of different modes of transport around the circuit here this week, and they seem to be a very creative bunch. We've got loads of fans, just like those wonderful people there, filling the roof of the start-finish straight and the back straight here. One of the really cool little novelties of this place is that you can stand on the grandstand up on the roof and see, obviously, the start-finish straight. And once they've gone past you, everybody runs from one end of the building to the other to see the back straight in the same moments. It's really cool. Antonio Albacete back into the pit lane. He's not going to have long before he heads back out. Casino gives him the thumbs up, saying you're through to Q3, son. Well done. Great job indeed. We see fans of all generations making their way around the circuit as Tim Frost, that's the fastest I think I've ever seen him move. Something needing tightening on the rear there. I wish I could tell you what that was, but Tim just making sure before the green flag comes out and before they go back out on the circuit, he has definitely done what needs doing. And like a bolt of lightning, he's off. Absolutely off. You can see from every single shot here at the circuit just how beautiful the place is. You know, there's so much woodland around the place. There's one of the wind farms down on the exit of Turn 4 at the Lucien Bianchi box. And it's crazy to say, but it looks even bigger in person. There's the view from Turns 1 and 2. You can see there's one just outside of the circuit there over on the left. It's gorgeous, really gorgeous area. I never understand why people don't think that these wind farms are pretty. I know that they're not exactly natural structures, but I think they're very elegant at the same time. I think there's definitely worse ways that they could be made and made to look. And obviously it reflects nicely on our global message here at the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, that it's a very sustainable way of going racing. I hope that bloke was recycling. Looked like he was, which is always good. And thanks very much to Imre Kadar, a good friend of mine. He's just spotted what was going on there with Tim Frost. And he said that he was making the right rear stabilizer harder. So I think it's to do with the roll bars and the overall stiffness of the rear end of the truck. So thank you very much, Imre. Now then, we are open at the end of the pit lane. And the trucks head out onto the circuit. And the 6 drivers that we have out there then are Norbert Kish, Jochen Hahn, Antonio Albacete, Clemens Hecker, Sascha Lenz, and René Reinert. You can see the circuit drying out now. You can see how much drier it is than it was before. There's no spray. There's nothing being kicked up from the trucks at all. And the sunshine is definitely getting warmer than it was this morning. The wind has actually died down slightly, which is a miracle here at Zolder. Nobody ever really told me how windy it was at this place, but it blows a gale. I mean, the fact there's a wind farm next door should be quite the indication, but no. Chaz doesn't put 2 and 2 together, does he? So Norbert Kish then set a 1:59.0 in that last session. He was the only driver, I believe, to go under a 2-minute time. I'm just trying to re-grab the times, but it won't let me see them from the previous session, unfortunately. So I can tell you it was a 1:59.0 from Norbert Kish. But we're excited to see how this final session pans out, because between the likes of Jochen Hahn, Antonio Albacete, Sascha Lenz and René Reinert in the Titan class, we've got no idea who will remain on top. Norbert Kish, though, has been supreme as ever at the very top of the order. He was nearly a second clear on that previous lap. The truck just set up so well for braking zones and, you know, the start-stop nature of these circuits. It seems like it's a truck that gets out of the corner really beautifully. So some of these guys will just about be able to get 2 laps in back-to-back here, as they have just over 2 minutes before the session comes to a close. Obviously, they get to complete the time that they're on, but I think a lot of these drivers now will get just 1 lap on the board. Sascha Lenz has just crossed the line. So too has René Reinert. And now the qualifying flurry begins here. Jochen Hahn staying with Norby here. We've seen him do this a few times in practice, qualifying 3, where he doesn't leave a big gap ahead to Norby. A lot of the drivers tend to leave quite a gap, so they make sure that, you know, if the truck in front has an issue, they don't get caught out by it. But Jochen has been keeping tabs on Norby like this in the last few sessions. And right now, Jochen is right in his wheel tracks as they head out of the Villeneuve chicane. Now they head down towards the hairpin towards the end of the lap. Nice and smooth and tidy from both of them by the look of it. Into the final chicane they go. One more time then. It's a very interesting chicane because as you get on the power on the exit, it just goes over a crest. The rear end goes light, and obviously all 4 wheels on the rear spin up. It's a 1:57.1 by Norbert Kish. Some 2 seconds faster than he was in qualifying 2. Jochen Hahn goes second fastest with a 1:58.3 as well. What about Antonio Albacete? He does a 1:58.3 as well, but only a few hundredths of a second off. Clemens Hecker goes 4th fastest, 1:59.2 for him. And then next up, Sascha Lenz goes 2nd fastest. René Reinert goes 5th. And that will round out the session for those guys, I believe. Pretty sure that that's all that she wrote for those. And it seems like on the back straight, a lot of the drivers are actually slowing down now. It looks like Norbert Kish might be pushing on for another fast lap, though. I'm pretty sure that most of them crossed the line before the timer hit 0. We'll see. It certainly looks like they're not hanging about. These trucks don't often do their best laps when they're back-to-back. once they've sort of used their optimum temperatures and been really pushed through their first fast lap of the day, they don't really do a second lap as well. Clemens Hecker and Rene Reinert are the two drivers that have both backed off their times. You can see Clemens there just going over the crest of the hill a bit slower than usual. And there's Sasha Lenz really pushing the front end of that truck through, sliding around. And it does look like Norbert Kish is on a fast lap here. He's on a push lap, which is great. With back-to-back laps from him. Can he beat a 1:57.177 and set an absolutely monstrous lap time here at Zolder? Can he go below a 1:57? Unfortunately not. A 1:57.4 for him on that second time. Jochen Hahn, wow, talk about consistency. Jochen was just 9 thousandths of a second slower on that second lap. Really cool. Very solid consistency from him. Sasha Lenz across the line. And again, no improvement from him either. A 1:58.1, his fastest time, a 1:58.0. Antonio Albacete. No, he slowed down towards the end of that lap. And you can hear the announcer around the circuit. That's another reason I had to close the window, unfortunately. The announcements weren't on yesterday, but today they've got a speaker right outside our window here in the media centre, so unfortunately having to close that one during sessions. But Norbert Kish takes another pole position. Jochen Hahn in second, Sasha Lenz in second place. Jochen Hahn dropping to third place in that one. Antonio Albacete will start from fourth on the grid. Rene Reinert will not start from fifth. Clemens Hecker will move up a position and go into fifth place. Rene Reinert will start down in eighth position. So when we get all the times combined, I'll be able to confirm. I think it's Steffi Halm will start from sixth on the grid. And I think potentially Mark Taylor next up. Norbert Kish changed the engine at the start of the weekend. Well, the team did. The team changed the engine, and I think they'd heard some noises, and there've been noises reported by Norby at the end of the Most weekend. And just to play it safe, they said, you know what, we'll change the engine, put another one in for the start of the weekend. They ran it through the practice sessions and through warm-up, and it's been absolutely spot on. But there is Sasha Lenz, second place on the grid for him. He'll be really pleased with that. And it's Luke Garrett that will move up a position on the grid, by the way. Rene Reinert will drop from 5th to 8th after his 3-place penalty. Clemens Hecker will start from the 3rd row of the grid, then in 5th with Steffi Halm alongside. And then Luke Garrett will start in 7th place on the 4th row of the grid with Clemens Hecker. A great session that for Luke Garrett. He and the team will be over the moon with that one. They had a season that started with multiple reliability issues. Sasha will be over the moon with that as well. We know that he's another driver that's had a tough start to the year. The reliability of their truck has not been really patchy, but it's the pace that hasn't quite been there. They've had to really dial it in. Norbert Kish then fastest, 1:57.177 for him. Nearly 9 tenths of a second clear of Sasha Lenz, with Jochen Hahn in third alongside Antonio Albacete on row 2. Rene Reinert will start in 5th place with Clemens Hecker in 6th. Steffi Helm 7th ahead of Luke Garrett with Louis Requenco and Mark Taylor. Let's not forget though, Rene Reinert will drop a few positions. Jonathan Andre will start 11th alongside Bradley Smith, who will definitely be hoping for more in the races later on today. Stefan Kirsch 13th ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez in 14th. And John Newell, a surprise there in 15th place for him. He'll be hoping for a lot more as well, because at one point there, he was the fastest, of course, in class as well. So he knows that he can do it and lead that class. But yeah, unfortunately, he didn't quite have the session that he would have wanted there. Let's not forget as well, we have those 2 races coming up later on today. It's not a Formula 1 approach where we have qualifying on Saturday, race on Sunday. We have the 2 races. First one is at 1:05 local time, 12:05 in the UK, if you want to join us for that one. No, it's 5:21. I do apologise. I think I heard that right from my producer, and I gave you then the incorrect information, everybody. I'm so sorry. Sebastian knows what he's doing. Unfortunately, the person with the microphone doesn't. But so yeah, 5:21. So 12:55 local, 11:55 in the UK. And we hope you'll join us for that first race of the weekend. Should be a really, really good one to get us started. Quite the mix in the grid. We certainly look forward to bringing you all the action there. I'll be down on the grid for that one. But for now, I'm going to sign off and say goodbye, and we'll see you again at 5:1.